Hi Laura, Nicole here. All right, we're going to get started on your forecast. So we're going to do your solar return today, and it's been fun following your Instagram feeds. Like, it's so fun to get to see people and see more of their personal life, and it feels more real, like more connected. I've done a lot of readings for you, so it's neat to be able to also be able to really see your life happening. And because you had to wait a little bit on your forecast, what I thought I would do for you is I was just random extra thing. I was looking at the tarot cards, or the I Ching cards that I use. And I always do a prayer before I start, and I say a special prayer for the person I'm reading for, like an Akashic Record prayer. And I asked to work with your guides and that stuff. So the cards I pulled, I pulled three. One for sort of what's happening with a person's outer world, like their masculine, what's happening with their inner world, kind of their feminine, and then an overall card. And I specifically asked with the intention of what is it that your spirit guides would like you to know. And we got some cool cards that fit exactly perfectly kind of what you're going through. So the first card that I pulled was 56, the Wanderer. I don't know if you can see this, but see, it's an old man, and he's wandering up a hill. And this particular symbol, if you've studied the I Ching before, I know this isn't astrology, it's just kind of for fun. If you're like my girlfriend, I would just do them for fun, But the Wanderer, that's perfect. This is always a card I get when we're talking about a new journey or traveling or moving somewhere. It's going from space where we're comfortable into space where we're unsure about what to expect. It's exciting, it's unknown. And this one does mention traveling, adventure, movement, coping with unfamiliarity, a pilgrimage, aloneness, and broadening your horizons. So I thought that was pretty great with everything that's happening in your life right now. And then for the inner world, so your kind of your emotional state and what to bear in mind to keep you feeling safe and secure this year, is the Cauldron card. So can you see this? It's like a Buddha or something, I guess, holding a bowl. And I think of this card always as your inner. It's so perfect. It's like this is your inner security. It's the mastery of one's own self, one's emotional reactions to things, following one's instincts or one's intuition, and that sort of thing. So it talks about discerning wisdom, inner alchemy. So a lot of times when we have a really kind of exciting big shift in our outer world, of course, we get to test our faith on, did I make the right choice? And then the final card, the outcome card you got, was the Peace card. You see that one, 11 Peace? I know it's backwards, but anyway. And this one just talks about harmony, balance, perfection, a sense of well-being, favorable conditions, and expansion. So I thought, oh, yay, those are great cards. I was very excited to pull all of those for you. So let's look at your astrology now. And I'm going to take a drink of I'll be drinking my little Diet Mountain Dew here and there. Just to keep me from losing my voice. Okay, so we're going to take a look today at your solar return chart. I have it pulled up for Chattanooga. And what we do with the solar return is astrology is always about relationships between things. So we're going to look at your solar return chart relative to your birth chart. And I like to look first at the angles of the solar return and the sun to get an overall feel for the general kind of themes for the year. And then we'll go through month by month. And I'm going to shut my window actually, so excuse me for 1 second while I sort of go off camera. Because there's a dog outside barking really loudly. Okay, there we go, sorry. All right, so let's start first in your solar return. We have the sun in the 5th house, and just in case you were wondering, your solar return this year was on April 17th, so the day before your birthday. But we have the sun in the 5th, and the sun is exactly conjunct Uranus. Well, gee, would we think, when we seeing this, are we thinking, oh, this is going to be a really placid year where nothing too exciting happens? Probably not. So having the sun in the 5th house in the solar return, we know we have big personal, kind of almost even life path focused decisions to make during this year. It's usually a year where we're questioning, do I like my career? Is my career on the path I want it to go on? My living situation, etc. And it's always kind of the bigger question underneath is, it's creative. It's if it's not the life I'm wanting to live, then what is it I can do to make it different? And it's that process of actively creating something in our life in the outer world. So when the sun is in the 5th, it tends to be a year where we're going to put some energy into creating something that is visible. It doesn't have to mean a piece of art, just like moving, retooling your life, figuring out for yourself who it is that you are, etc. With the sun conjunct Uranus, there is usually there's going to be some themes that show that you yourself may be a little bit of a rebel, or you may be a little unpredictable. You might be doing things this year where you need to feel free to live the way that feels right for you. It's really individualistic, okay? Let's go through the angles. So you've got a Sagittarius rising. It's at 7 of Sag. And this is going to be landing in, get your birth chart here, lands in your 5th house. So there's a 5th house. We're seeing a theme here. We're seeing it kind of being triggered in 2 different places. And that the ascendant is at 7 degrees in your solar return. It's conjunct your Neptune that you have in the 5th. And you've got Neptune on one side, North Node on the other. So to me, this says the heading, the direction this year is very much in this incarnation, something new that you're moving towards that may be, unknown territory, new horizons that something you've never maybe moved towards before. So, to me, this feels like a year of adventure, and it is a Sagittarius rising. You are in your birth chart. You've got fire, lots of fire, and fire is at the heart. The essence of fire is it's about movement. It's taking something, doing something with it, moving with it. So having the ascendant fall into the 5th house is this year that you'll look back on and feel like that was a really important year for me to create whatever it was that I sort of created, or followed my heart. I listened to my heart. It's very much, actually, 5th house is Leo, which is the sun, which makes me think of the heart, one of those years where it is, I have to be very true to oneself. To thine own self be true, right? Which means then, if we have the ascendant in the 5th and we have the descendant in your 11th, it's new friendships. It's you marrying yourself to other people that you never met before. Quite simply. And I'll tell you, when I had this happen 2 years ago, 2016, in my chart, and I just became really busy with clients. It showed up for me through the internet, which is 11th house, which you have, descendant in the 11th. So, but really, it's meeting people that you've never known before. It's new friendships, and that friendships many times will take on a high value in your life during that year. Then we have a Pisces IC at 21 of Pisces. So that's going to land us in, and that makes sense when you're moving, in it looks like your 8th house. Make sure it's right on the cusp. Yeah, it'll be in your 8th. So, of course, we talk about 4th house representing the domestic scene. The IC is the cusp. And Pisces is like putting sugar into water. It dissolves things. And so usually whichever sort of house lands in Pisces for the year, there's going to be an element of disillusion, of transcending or letting go. So for some people, it's losing something, And then you have Aries there as well, which is a new fresh start. So it couldn't be more sort of literal for you this year. And then we move, of course, to the MC in the solar return. We have Virgo up there. So it's going to land in your 2nd house in the birth chart. That to me feels like a job where you're like working for someone else. It's not like the dream job maybe necessarily. We're working on something, and it's tied directly into our security, like financial security. So like taking a job because it will pay the bills, sort of a thing. Taking on not necessarily maybe a year where we are having crazy success at work, not necessarily that. It's more of a modest year, more of a year of apprenticeship or of working or even of waiting. If we're taking a class or we're learning a new skill, it's a great time for that, actually. And if we look in the solar return chart, let's come back here for a sec. I'm just going to look at all the angles, rulers, kind of where they fall. So the ascendant ruler's in your 12th. So the heading where you're going, it's in the house that has to do with like not knowing. The 12th house is Pisces. But Jupiter in the 12th can also be like you've got guides that are guiding you. And you're not going to always have I know exactly what's coming down the road, but that's okay because you're being watched out for. So the Jupiter in the 12th, sometimes it can be a little year where we have a trial of faith, of our faith, a sense of, am I doing the right thing? Like, has God abandoned me? Some people can show up like that, or they can just feel like where before they knew the truth or they had answers really easily. During this year, they may feel a little bit less sure of the answers that they've received. So they have to, therefore, trust and have faith that the decisions that they've made are wise, right? So then we've got the IC ruler, so sort of home and family life. That ruler is there in the third, Neptune conjunct the IC. I mean, there's like no, that's like the classic signature of moving, of your home situation totally changing, and it's like the script is. It's almost like a brand new play, It's like that was the old play, and then here's a whole brand new. That's actually a great metaphor. Imagine you're part of like an acting troupe, and you finish the season where you've done, I don't know, the Cats musical every night for a season, and then it's vacation time, right? And the vacation time, the period in between before you start a new season is sort of Piscean. It's like the end of something, dissolving it, letting it go, and then this transition into this new season. You've also got Mercury in the fourth. You've got the ruler of the fourth in the third, which is the Mercury Gemini. So this sort of idea that there's more than one. And the Mercury in Aries would suggest more than one, and it's moving towards something that's new. So the ruler of, let me see. I'll back up on that. Okay, let's go to your seventh really quick. So then in the seventh house, so what it is you're sort of marrying yourself to this year, right? It's not just relationships. Seventh house is a social house. It's how you're interacting and how you're growing and developing as a human being on a social level with other people. So these contacts with it in Gemini may come through, actually through your travels a little bit too, and moving to a new place, even being sort of in a sense married to creating your nest in this new place. And I'm wondering too if you're going to like bring like friends in to help or something, or if there's going to be renovations to be done, or like some kind of work that you have to do on the new place. But it feels like doing it on a shoestring, like doing it one's own self, because that Mercury ruler is over in the second. It's that Taurus house. It's very self-sustained. It's like, oh, I found this scrap material. I found this in my storage that we can use to fix this thing. It's being very resourceful with what's available, like what we have at hand, and even being quite frugal this year. It's a good year to plan things out before going sort of jumping, because and you have a square here, of course. Your Sun conjunct Mercury or Uranus is squaring all of us. There's going to be times this year where you're not going to be totally sure if you're doing the right thing. It's going to feel right, but you might not 100% be sure about your answer. You've also got the moon in Taurus this year, conjunct Venus, which is like really that placement's, I would like to know what's going to be coming down the road, but I feel blocked, like I'm not quite sure. And at the same time, Venus and moon in Taurus really value security and being able to kind of, being able to pay your bills, feeling safe, feeling like we're kind of being responsible, I guess, earthy and grounded and practical, So that Venus conjunct, the Venus conjunct Moon, making that nice trine to the Mars and Pluto. I think it also might tie into the friends that you make, some of the friendships that you might run into. I'm wondering if there's something between you and your mom at all too. And I saw that really lovely, the poem that she posted or wrote out for you and that you posted on Instagram. That was really beautiful. And that was a great example of Venus moon in Taurus in the sixth house of Virgo, because Venus is the daughter, moon is the mother. The sign of Taurus, that subject matter, talking about kind of not knowing what to expect. That's the number one thing I always say for people with moon in Taurus, is there's a tendency to need to feel safe and secure by knowing what's going to be happening in our environment. And when you're moving, you don't know. And so, and your moon in Taurus is opposite Jupiter and Scorpio that's in the 12th. So that's that sort of, you don't know, but your intuition's married to Jupiter, which is like in the 12th house, it's like your spirit guides. So you're being taken care of. You just have to trust that everything is always as it's supposed to be. But some years we appreciate, you can kind of better appreciate when it's nice and easy. In other years, it's more challenging. I mean, this to me feels like, yes, you're going to have lots of times this year where you feel like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I've made this decision about my path. You start down that path and you may go, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe I want to do this instead, because you do have Sun conjunct Uranus. It can also even just show up in your outer life being kind of crazy and hectic. And in your inner world, your moon in Taurus in the sixth house needs to feel safe and secure. It's really important this year with friends. Friendships should be like the number one thing that, with moving that you sort of are cultivating, because When I see Gemini in the 7th, it can be sort of siblings, but it can also be like neighbors, people that are associates, people that we live next to. And the ruler is Mercury in Aries down in the 4th, which says you have a chance to make some new friends that might even be, I don't know, it feels like this outdoorsy, adventure-y thing, so you got the Aries, the Mercury in Aries, and an earthy Venus and an earthy moon this year, a chance to meet some people that are kind of salt of the earth, that practical, grounded individuals that I think it's going to be a pretty fun year, actually. And 11th house is your house of friendship, and you've got Libra there. So to me, it feels like a year where your friends will be the place that you'll go looking for a sense of groundedness and rootedness and security, and like, oh, okay, cool. These are my people. And even if, when you move, if you can find, hey, you like astrology, maybe you could find like a like-minded group, a meetup group, or something that's like a spiritual meetup group of some kind. You'd be surprised what you find on the internet, on meetup.com. So I would look into that if I were you. And then let's scoot over for a second here. Just back up for a moment, just kind of looking between the two charts. Okay, so let's go month by month. Let's start first with, so you in the solar return, you start with the house where the sun is located. That's the month of the birthday. So for you, that's April. And your birthday is like right in the middle of the month. So when I say April or I say May, in your mind, think May 18th through June 18th. But because my memory's so bad from my head injury, I lose track of the month I'm on sometimes. So just you bear in mind that if I say April, it's April 18th through May 18th. It's that month, okay? So 5th house, April, it's your April month, so from your birthday. And I mean, obviously we know you've had lots of Uranian and exciting things happening in your life personally since you had your birthday. So I would imagine 5th house is it's an exciting way to start off a year, right? It's a year where it's like, okay, this year has to do with how I'm leaving my own unique handprint on the world. And a lot of times it ties into career, or it can tie into, obviously, like where you live, your family, that kind of thing. There's a square over to Pluto. So I'm kind of wondering if it looks like something that's going to happen, that's going to kind of occur for you next year. So this will be like April, let's see, October, November, December, January. Like January 18th, February 18th of next year, 2019, you do have a square from Pluto. And Pluto can sort of represent, sometimes it can represent endings and new beginnings, but with Pluto in the 2nd house, I'm also wondering if this is supposed to be an experience where you go and you learn about your self-sufficiency, you learn about your ability to be safe and secure, to be resourceful, to be self-sufficient. Like I think that's going to be some of the big themes this year, is you learning about your ability to survive, even in situations that are unknown or that are, exciting and possibly. Sometimes you make a decision like this, you move, you go do something, and you're like, this isn't for me, and then you move back. Or sometimes you go and you're like, oh my gosh, my life has been completely sort of reborn. So it could show up in different ways. I mean, it's sort of a suggestion that you may next year, in the springtime, like February, March, you might also again choose to move. So wouldn't be too super surprised if you decided to move back next spring. Okay, and that might even just be part of the plan. I apologize if I can't. Sometimes it's good that I can't remember all the details because I just read you what I'm seeing. Helps me to be a little bit less biased. So, okay, we move into the summer. So let's move into May 18th to June 18th. So it's kind of just a couple of weeks from right now. 6th house, Virgo. A lot of times, the month where you see 6th house or 12th house sort of highlighted, it tends to be a month of work or of waiting for something, or we're working on something, and the moon is there and Venus is there as well. So I'm thinking this is your house where you're living, your perhaps friendships that you have, or your love life. It feels like a pretty grounded, like fairly happy period of time, but also one that is like hands in the dirt, working, quite focused on. That's like when you start your job, learning. It can even just be learning the day-to-day in and out skills at your job, and also you might be making some friends there because you got Venus. Your Venus that's there in Taurus conjunct the moon. And I wouldn't be surprised as well if you and your mom continue just kind of supporting one another, her supporting you during this phase, because that's Venus the daughter, the moon the mother, and they're both in Taurus, and so that combination, it just feels like one that's not going anywhere soon, The ruler also Ceres is up in the 8th. And so it's a Ceres, it's conjunct the North Node, it's in Leo. And this to me does feel like there might even need to be, not the cord cut, I mean, you're grown, but you know what I'm saying, with your mom, there might even need to be a point this year where there's a purging or a letting go of. If you're ever having anxieties and worries, we can be a little bit obsessive about the decisions that we've made when the moon is in Taurus. Because the moon in Taurus, that's a year where we want to have control over our environment. When you don't know what to expect, it's not possible to have control over the future necessarily, right? Like, at least from little monkey mind. So the trick here with that moon in Taurus opposite Jupiter, yet again in the 12th, is to remember to let go if you're starting to get worried or anxious or trying to, I don't know, if you're thinking small, right? Just that process of letting go and trusting. Are you still breathing? It's like the questions you ask yourself. Are you still breathing? Yes. Okay. You're still alive. It's okay. We can get through this. Like, just doing that little, with the moon and Venus both in the 6th, it can be a year where we can have anxiety, moon in particular. We can have anxiety, we can have worries, especially when the ruler's in the 8th of Scorpio. We're here to experience those things so that we can push up against them and realize, oh, geez, I'm getting outside of this present moment. I'm worrying about the future. Okay? And that's what you do when the moon is in the 6th house. It's Virgo. So learning to come back to center, and maybe even if you can get yourself, obviously getting out into nature. I'm sure you'll be doing a lot of that, but like on your own, going and sitting in nature and letting her heal you. That's the great year for learning about herbal medicines or anything that has to do with earth-based, plant-based medicines, or things that you bring into your space even, right? Like anything that's rock, crystal, earth. I love handmade things, handmade baskets or handmade, I don't know, whatever for you gives you a sense of feeling like you're at home and you feel grounded, to have those maybe in your space this year. But it feels particularly, kind of makes me think of like crystals and rocks and things that you decorate your home with, but that are also have a healing property to them, have the ability to kind of remind you of wholeness, if that makes any sense. Okay, because I do think that probably next month, May 18th to June 18th, will be a slightly, it's like stressful, but in a way that you can deal with, and it's going to be stresses about things that are very basic. Can I make money? Am I going to be able to survive and take care of myself? What are my basic needs? Like food, clothing, shelter, just all the kind of the basic stuff would be something that I would imagine you may worry about a little bit. It might be the thing that causes you to feel a sense of distrust of yourself. If that makes sense. The ruler of Taurus, as I said, is up in the 8th, and the natural ruler of the 6th house is Chiron. So that's down your 4th, which is the house of the mother, home, family, emotional security. It's a Chiron 0 degrees of Aries, so it's a brand new start. And so there's worries about maybe how to do that new start and getting to a place where we feel safe and secure. So don't be surprised. Moon in the 6th and Chiron in the 4th, those are both the combination of the Cancer and the Virgo archetypes, which is the moon, emotions, and Chiron, Virgo, which is like something's not quite working exactly like it should be. We're trying to fix it, make it whole. Did I make the right choice? Maybe I made the wrong choice. I feel bad about that. I feel guilty about that. I feel worried about that. It's all that stuff. That's the shadow side. And the high side, the shadow side too, is overthinking, over worrying, ruminating over something you have no control over that really doesn't matter. It's looking too much at the little tiny details instead of trusting, letting go, like creating a plan. You do all you can do, right? You create a plan and then you sort of let go and let God. And that's this year, it feels like that'll be some of the themes for you. Okay, Lord, then we move into, by the way, I love I don't know if your family calls you like is it Lolly? Or something like that, like the cute little nickname. I have a daughter, I call her Lula or Lalu, or Lou. She's my Lily. But anyway, I think that's cute. Okay, so we move into June. So June 18th to July 18th, 7th house. It's your house of relationships. You've got Gemini on the cusp. So that's ruled by Mercury back down in the 4th. This can be feeling like we have we can feel a little pulled, okay? like our emotional security needs might be coming a bit from our relationship, our partnership with, others. It can also be bringing friends, living with friends, because the ruler's kind of down in the fourth house, so it can show up literally. It can be also being on the phone a lot or communicating a lot with those who are from back home or with our mother. Really, I think the thing to learn from Cancer is about learning about going inward and trusting one's inner voice. So that Mercury that's in the fourth is like your inner voice, so sort of symbolically speaking to you. And it's a Mercury in Aries, so it's a brave inner voice, and it's a pretty instinctive one, being ruled by a Mars that's over in Capricorn in the second. So to me, it feels like you may, if let's say you have a moment where you're feeling worried about something, or there's a problem to be solved, and the Mercury in Aries in the fourth is really subjective and personal perspective on the world. So it's very much kind of seeing things from one's own perspective without necessarily looking for input. You do have a sextile to your moon and to Venus. So that could be, sort of talking to your mom. It's a really wide sextile. It's out of sign though. So the stronger aspects that this Mercury has, you've got a stronger aspect to Saturn in Capricorn in the first. It's a retrograde Saturn. So that's going to be fears that we might have about being a responsible adult. Like, is what I'm doing with my life going to get me judged by someone? That sort of feeling. And when you have a squared Mercury, we could feel, it's like, it's our own inner thought processes or fears that or things we're saying to ourselves. It's our own Saturn, in a sense. It's the solar return Saturn, but, So it's kind of like we're being critical of ourselves. We might be being kind of a little bit hard on ourselves, and we might be thinking small. We may at times get a little focused on feeling safe and secure. And if you've made a decision this year where you realize, maybe this isn't the right decision, it's going to take you probably the whole year to sort of to see that, or to admit to it, or to be okay with it, And again, it's not that there was a right or wrong decision. But if you feel at some point, I'm zigging and now, 10 months have gone by and I'm ready to zag, I'm ready to kind of do the other thing, because that's kind of what I'm seeing will happen. So, okay, so as far as relationships go per se though, you could have a relationship at home or a relationship there, like two relationships. There's an opportunity for new relationships with other people. And again, this isn't just romantic. The ruler of the seventh house is down in the fourth. So whoever you're partnering with, you may be looking for emotional comfort, sort of, or a sense of security through those connections with other people, sense of home, kind of belonging. And it could be a really exciting period of time, but I also am wondering if kind of your Saturn in the first, it's like you stopping yourself from going out and pursuing new relationships with people, or if work itself or your responsibilities prevent you or hamper you from like going out and spending every day going out and meeting new people. It's probably not very realistic, but if you can through work, then that's your Venus in the sixth. That would suggest that'd be where you could kind of find those connections with people that will be important to you and give you a sense of well-being and happiness. That's the Venus conjunct the moon. The other really great thing, by the way, about the Taurus energy for the year is it's grounded. It's grounding energy. Sometimes we feel it forces us to stay in one place. Sometimes, so we make a decision. We're talking, this is like May 18th to June 18th when that Taurus kind of is activated, which would be like you've moved or whatever. And it's got this grounding, okay, let's sit here with this for a moment. And because you have Venus there this year, that means you're going to value and appreciate kind of this quality of coming down to earth and sitting for a moment and waiting. It has this waiting kind of vibe to it. So, okay, what else with June? June. I feel like there's something else that we're supposed to see here. I'm just wondering, I am wondering about like your house situation. If you're living in if you're in a living situation with friends or some sort of co-op or some sort of like something where it's like jointly owned, because the ruler of your moon is up in the 8th. Or if you're going to do something to the property, like restore it somehow or do some sort of renovations on it, maybe in exchange, like sweat equity kind of a thing. if you have, let's say I feel like being creative this year is really important with your living arrangements. And if you are living in a home or a building or property or whatever that needs repairs that you know how to do, that you could somehow have that as a possible sweat equity trade. It's just something to maybe to think of or be creative with. Roommates even possible if you're able to share, splitting rent with people is also kind of a possibility. I just feel like this year where you're going to find your pleasure and your sense of security is going to be through serving other people, first of all, and also through almost more like the social interactions and contacts that you have with people, the bonds that you create this year. And I'm wondering if like this whole experience is something that's meant to remind you of a past life place, so like someplace you've actually literally been, and someplace, because your North Node's in the 8th, so it's like the Pluto house, the house of death and rebirth. So I'm kind of wondering, even if in the month of July, it's like July 18th to August 18th, it almost feels like more at the beginning of August, if you're supposed to have some sort of an experience that is sort of revelatory, where could tie into the parts of yourself and your identity, because you've got Ceres and Leo in the 8th, parts of your identity that you've held on to that have given you a sense of security, but that ultimately at the end of the day haven't been truly who you are, And it's funny because like your birth chart, every time I look at your birth chart, I'm always like, your birth chart feels very different from how you are, right? And a technique that I've been using lately, and this might be the way that I do readings in the future, I haven't decided yet, but it's where I look at both the tropical and the draconic, and then I put them together and I create, I call it a deep chart, and it's the whole technique. I'm not going to explain it, but I have a feeling that chart for you is probably, you'll really resonate with it. And that's how I love my deep chart. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the chart that I always thought that I really had. So anyway, point is, if you ever want me to look at that for you, we've done like so many readings. If you ever wanted to just do a quick, like a shorter reading, we can go through and just look at the basic planets. It's really fun. So anyway, I feel like that month of July to August, the North Node in Leo, that's the sun, that's the identity, the personality. And the nodes of the moon are a little tricky in solar returns. To me, it feels like I'm kind of, my personal opinion, I haven't fully formed it on the nodes. Other astrologers, they tie it to people coming into our life, meeting new people, that sort of thing. I think yes, maybe, but I think there's something deeper to it and I haven't gotten to it yet. Point is, it does feel like it aligns with a person's soul path. And Leo as an archetype has to do with the self, the identity, right? And so within the 8th house, I just feel like that month's going to be an important month for you, where you've got Cancer on the cusp. That means the moon is the ruler of that month. That's going to be a month where you might have some emotional stuff come to the surface that you're not necessarily super comfortable with. You could even feel a sense of like, again, kind of worrying about things or how do I say, not trusting that everything is as it should be. That might even be sort of at the beginning of that month. And then to me, it feels as well, if you can recognize it, you might just have a day or a week where you look back and you go, oh my gosh, this is like what Nicole's talking about, where I'm kind of feeling like unsure, or I'm feeling like I need more answers, or, that kind of thing. And that might be the time when you go out into the woods or go near a body of water by yourself, go on a hike or something, safely, of course, and go say some prayers, or just go sit against a tree, go sit on the ground with your feet in a creek, getting physically, it feels like just this returning to the earth is going to be really important for grounding, because that 8th house, which is our house where we're going to purge a lot of emotional stuff. I mean, that's the month that's really going to kind of happen. It's the middle of the summer. With that ruler down in the 6th house, there's healing to be done in that area. And it's a moon in Taurus, which says we need to heal through, we're first going to try and heal. We're going to try and use that moon through trying to control things. And then we're going to realize that we can't, there's things in our surroundings we don't have any control over, including other people or calendars, situations, whatever. So getting sort of really comfortable in the skin you're in wherever you are without needing anyone else to reassure you. It's such a grounding place when it doesn't mean you don't need other people, but when you trust that the decision that you've made, you've said done your due diligence, you've done your thinking, you've done your prayer, your meditating, your connection with your spirit guides, or what have you, and you've got an answer and you're trusting it. That can be a scary place to be, but it can also be, it's like you need to learn this year about your ability to know for yourself, like what your right path is without needing input from anyone else. And that's, at the end of this year, I think, where you're going to be. Neptune in the third, by the way, it's like next year, right before your birthday, like March 18th, April 18th, you have Neptune in the third can be one where we can be, it's kind of this funny, I almost feel like you're going to make a decision then, might not make a lot of sense to yourself or to other people or what have you, but you just like know it's the right decision. And it's kind of feels very peaceful, like a very peaceful month. But that's, that's in the future. Okay, so let me back up. I'm getting off track. Sorry, I get excited. When I read your chart, sometimes I do that. I forgot to mention for your descendant with it in the 11th house, I think I said, great year for making friendships. And in fact, it will be kind of right conjunct your natal Gemini Venus. It's like 2 degrees away from it. It's also conjunct your South Node. And so that South Node, if we were to plop, let's pretend we overlaid the charts. Venus and the South Node are going to land in your solar return chart's 6th house, right? So they have this quality of like, maybe there's people coming into your life this year that are people from past incarnations or people from your past who are going to be here for a little period of time to assist you on something. It does feel transitory. It doesn't feel like forever and ever and ever, and it doesn't necessarily feel like it's necessarily romantic love or anything like that. It feels more like friendships that are going to be really important to you, and those sort of soulmate associates that when you meet them, you're like, oh my gosh, I know this person, known this, even though I've never met this person, but I feel like I've known them for forever, kind of a thing. Almost like a sibling vibe. So, and in your love life, it can even be someone who's assisting you as a partner, romantic partner, but they're really actually more of a soulmate from your soul family. It's like one of your brothers or sisters, kind of an assistantship year with this person. And it feels like you're going back to do something that's from a past incarnation. Either the location or the actual job skills that are required, or the people that you're working with. Like, it's going to be some work that needs to get finished before you can move on, I think, to the next phase of your life. Okay, so, and I think that those answers will come for you in July 18th to August 18th. So then we move in maybe even more so in August, because you've got the 9th house kind of, it's the theme for August 18th to September 18th. And you've got Leo, so the ruler's down in the 5th. This could have something to do with children, with working with children, or teaching kids, or something that has to do with your own creative project that you might have. Feels like that is a great month to go camping, getting out into nature. It makes me think even randomly of like going out to, how people sometimes on Sunday will go out into nature to go hiking because that's church for them. That's kind of how this feels. And it feels like it'll be like this for the whole year. Anytime you're feeling a little bit crazy with the Uranus stuff, go out into nature. And in fact, if the sunshine feels really important this year too, with Leo in the 9th, Leo and Virgo. It's kind of this year of healing and being okay with being messy. Like, it's okay. We're all messy. Having the ruler of the 9th house conjunct Uranus just says that your spiritual beliefs this year also, you can have an opportunity to learn things really quickly and in very sort of, how do you say it? Like, it's revelatory, and it can come really quickly, really fast. You can start hanging out with someone new. I'm going to give you an example, okay? Because I've had something similar happen. I'll just tell you like kind of what happened for me when Uranus was opposite my sun and conjunct my moon, because I was born on full moon. I had gotten divorced, was in the process of divorcing, and met and started dating this guy who totally soulmate, soul family, and he introduced me to literally over the course we dated, like hundreds of people that I met, like on social media and whatnot, that I like probably met over 300 people just dating him, So you may have something really similar this year where, your life is going to be exposed to new people, new situations, new elements, but it'll feel familiar. It's this very odd, oh yeah, I know you, you're from my tribe, oh yeah. Like you'll look back and feel like these people have always been part of your story, but in the moment, they'll feel brand new. So it's exciting, When we scoot into, let's see, August, September, October, so we got the 10th house, that's, you got Virgo up there. 10th house is how you're showing up in the outer world. It's kind of your reputation. It's also your security in the outer world. And Virgo is a little cautious and worried. There's a worried sort of expression with Virgo because it recognizes, it's like, when someone apologizes because they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, because they feel like they've done something wrong, they've made a mistake. That's kind of Virgo energy. So when that's on the 10th house, we can have a job where we're serving someone else, where we're in a submissive role. We can have a job that we don't necessarily love, but maybe it's an apprenticeship so that we can do the thing we're really wanting to do, so we can be learning new skills. The ruler for you is down in the 4th house, Cancer. So the job that you have, it looks like it's there to give you've taken it because it's securing your sense of security, right? So it might not be the dream job, but it's realistic and practical and pragmatic, and it's the thing that needs to happen, and you're going to learn some skills during this phase, and it's actually the background story. It's not even like the most important thing happening this year, so I feel like the most important thing happening this year is you learning to trust yourself. That's your big theme. It's going to be your life being a little crazy, and you also like being okay with the parts of yourself that need to feel safe and secure. So it's almost like you're putting yourself in a situation, or you've co-created like your life, right? That's going to throw some fun, exciting curveballs at you, but it's so that you can see that you're resourceful, that you're strong, that if you want to do something for yourself, you can make it happen. I'm going to give you an example. I just watched a video of a girl, this totally hot, like brunette, little curvy body, dressed all cute and sassy. And she's walking around showing you her hobbit house that she built. And she built it with friends, basically. And it cost her like 15 grand. And she built it over a couple of years in the middle of nowhere. But it's this super creative, inventive, awesome teeny little house. And she built it herself. And she's this total hottie, like looks like she's like a stripper, like she reminds me of my best friend, like uber sexy, you know what I'm saying? Like over the top. But then also, just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover. She's very, very mechanical and really smart. As she's talking, you're like, whoa, this girl's really smart. This is one of those years it feels like you're going to learn about your inner part of yourself, like this girl that kind of like surprises everybody, that's sort of like more resourceful than you yourself maybe even knew until you kind of went on this adventure. So that's exciting. So September, October, 10th house, the ruler's down in the 4th. The natural ruler is over in the 1st. So very personal. It feels like career this year, job, what you do for work will be, feels like you might be settling a little bit on the surface. Like it might look like, oh, you took a job or you're doing something that's not maybe what you're really loving, but it's so that you can pay your bills. So sort of coming from that place of fear, not having enough, or discernment, you could say that as well. So it doesn't feel like work's going to necessarily be a place that's super duper exciting, but also with Libra in the 10th house and the ruler down in the 6th, you may create some associate relationships, some friendships, some sort of a sense even of security and home will be held by the people that you work with. Like they'll start to feel kind of like family, home away from home, that sort of thing. Try not to get yourself into a situation where you're like taking care of everybody and you're not taking care of yourself. Taking care of everybody else's needs so that you feel like you have a job, a role, that kind of codependent-ish behavior. Or that you're just a workaholic as well, could also be. Try to take time to, getting out in nature. I don't know why. That just is like the big theme. Just getting out there. Okay. Then we move into, let's see, so make sure I'm on the right, April, May, June, July, August, September, September, October, 11th house. So fall, September 18th to October 18th, 11th house is our month. Lots of times it's going to be it can be the month where, so something quote unquote unexpected can happen, or we ourselves can feel kind of rebellious that month. The ruler is down in the 6th. So if you're working on a project, I'm also wondering, like, if you're on like a project at work where there's like a timeline on it, maybe it would be finished by then, or there feels like there could be something that comes to you that is for the community, like, working with people that you don't know necessarily. But it feels like it's like transitional, like something, a project or something that's short-term, temporary, but it'll do the job for now kind of a thing. I don't know if that means anything to you, but it might even tie into doing some work from home. You might say, I'll take some of that home with me. And that could be a good thing. It's making a trine to your Pluto and to your Mars, which says it's sort of showing you that you're in the 2nd house, you're going to have an ability to make it work. Mars-Pluto energy, I think Saturn too, Saturn, Mars, Pluto, all these things, these archetypes together are very much about building something, working towards something solid, and even learning how to manifest using, with the little trine to your moon and to Venus, the parts of you that emotionally are going to want to feel secure. They're kind of activating the parts of you that have to go do the work to make that happen, So hardworking. We move into, I keep losing track, September, October, November, 12th house. 12th house month usually is one where, it's funny because they go back to back, the 11th and the 12th houses, and those do tend to be a part of the year where there can be unexpected circumstances that happen, or something in one of our relationships. You've got Libra there, so maybe even you're in your personal world the month before. You might be worried about your relationship or friendships even at work, or worried about anything happening, or worried about I have to work extra hard to make sure that they like me at work, that kind of thing, or they'll want to keep me on. And then it feels like that following month where we have the 12th house, we're sort of, the ruler's down in the 2nd, it's Pluto, and that's about purging this year the belief that we have to self-sacrifice in order to be safe and secure. Okay, purging maybe also the belief that we need to have all of the answers before taking action. Both things might be big lessons this year. Okay, then, sorry, I'm losing track of my dates. I do this every time. So March, September, October, November, December. Yeah, am I saying this right? April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. December, okay. 1st house, December. So December 18th to January 18th. 1st house usually is new beginnings, new starts, and Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, which you have in the 12th. To me, I'm wondering, the month of December, it's possible you could go on some sort of an excursion of some kind. I feel like Saturn is there though as well. So like the realities of maybe commitments you've made or work that you have to do, like almost feels like a contract that we signed or an agreement that we made. It feels kind of like a month of, I don't know, a little foggy, confused. You may not be sure. Maybe it's like the time where you have to decide what you're going to do for the following year, and you may feel a sense of, I'm not really sure exactly, and you may feel this sense of, because you've got the ruler opposite the moon and Venus, am I wanting to go back home or be with, just feels like there's a conflict there between, how I feel right now, like, I don't know how to put, that's how it's going to feel. It's like you may have some realities that hit you because you have Saturn there, and you may not know exactly what you're supposed to do next, and that's okay. So if that's how December feels for you, sort of December 18th, January 18th, February 18th, you got the 2nd house sort of indicated, and Mars is there. So that feels a bit more like we're going to do something, we're going to take action. And that ruler, Mars, rules your 5th house, which is where your sun is located. So what it is I'm doing with myself this year, you might have a sense I need to take action now. So January 18th to February 18th. Now, Mars conjunct Pluto can be trying to control things when it's in the 2nd house. It can be trying to control our environment, to me, I don't know why, it makes me think more, though, of you building something. Like you're building something, or you're fixing something, or renovating, like I said earlier, property, or you might even have an injury that gets like re-injured or something, because Mars does have to do with the body, and the ruler is Saturn, which is in the first, that's retrograde. It can be just overworking yourself as well, because we want to feel safe and secure, but then we're exhausted and tired, come January to February. The other really important thing to note is that time of year, I would imagine it's still going to be pretty, depression could be an issue. So be sure that you're doing, if you ever get seasonal depression, be sure you're taking vitamin D and that kind of thing, because it feels like if the body's sort of slowed down, because it feels like it's drained a little bit. The body's feeling drained. And the Mars-Pluto conjunction can also be great for rejuvenating the body. But with Mars approaching Pluto, it's like the body's it's weakened right now. Mars is the body. It's stuck between Saturn, which is like working too much, retrograde, and Pluto, which it's moving towards, which is this sort of rebirth phase. But in the meanwhile, we can feel run down, tired, unsure of how to do it any differently, So, just be aware of resting, making sure you take time to rest this year. You might also feel kind of like decisions that you made the year prior. So looking back to May, like this time, next year, looking back to February, month of February next year, looking back to right now, you may feel a sense of, okay, cool. I feel like I've grown. I feel like I have become more secure in my own sort of ability to survive. There's this like survival resourcefulness theme in this chart this year. I've learned how to kind of plant some seeds and then see the benefit of whatever I planted sort of surviving and harvesting from that, whatever I planted in May, June, you literally plant something that you start and you see next year in the springtime bloom again or something, or start sprouting again, as a symbol of your own process of planting some seeds, and those seeds surviving a very cold winter and then coming up for sunlight in the spring. That feels like a great metaphor for you for this upcoming year. Second house, and I think that with the South Node being in the second house, North Node in the 8th, that to me just feels like you are here this year to learn about letting go of beliefs that you have about survival, and by survival, I'm using that sort of as a metaphor, but I think you know what I mean. It's in your relationships, whether someone stays or goes, that kind of thing. It's just decisions that you've made, whether you can make them work without anyone else's input. It feels like towards the end of this year, before your next birthday, you'll feel like a sense of, like your inner pioneer almost, your inner master of your own ship. The captain of your own ship. That's how it feels. Yeah, it's like you'll be like the captain of your own vessel. And a certain amount of like pride, feeling proud of yourself for, okay, well, I had these crazy things kind of thrown at me unexpectedly, and I dealt with them this year. It wasn't always easy, but I dealt with them, and they forced me to have to also face my own decisions where I've tried to detach from responsibilities or from consequences or what have you, or from just my own messy craziness. I'm sort of seeing that it's for a reason. So hopefully this will make sense next year. Might not right now, but it will. And then we move into, February, I guess it's February, March. Yeah. February 18th, you have the third house. Aquarius is there, and Pisces. That tells us overall for the year that your personal perspective on things is going to be a little bit, it's going to be a little out there. It's going to be a little, you might feel like you're thinking in ways outside the box, okay? And from a very personal, like, I need to do this for myself, and because it's part of your individuation process. Neptune there in the third, too, can give us a sense of, I'm not sure if I'm making the right decision here, or I have this dream and this fantasy, and it might be totally diluted, but I'm going to go after it anyway. It's that, too. People who natally have Neptune in the third, they're my classic, I read for more unrequited love, people who are on the side of feeling unrequited in their love life with Neptune in the third than like any other It's just the signature I see. And it's not that the other person isn't in love. It's just sometimes the person with Neptune the third can see a picture that other people just can't see yet. And they'll jump ahead. They'll project this picture onto this other person, their relationship, and the other person's not ready yet. So we can do the same thing just with our life, where we can have a sense about something, but we don't know why. And it can be a little bit not 100% practical with thought processes. And same thing when we move into the fourth house. March 18th, you've got that's home, family. Again, there's Pisces there, so that can be us moving. There can be a move. Not always though. I mean, I've got fourth house indicated. Well, I don't have Pisces there, but Pisces can indicate a move. It can also indicate moving by water, like literally having a house or having an issue with our home where there's like water problems, like a flood in the basement. I had that happen one year when I had the same thing as you here with Pisces on the 4th. So it can be literal, or it can be moving, like the loss or the disappearance or the dissolving of the image of the house into the annals of our past, and this sort of, the concrete house itself, if we move away, it sort of becomes this dream. It's no longer this thing that we live in every day. So that's kind of how March, it feels to me, like there may be a move of some kind. Chiron and Mercury are here. So Chiron says this is where we're going to have healing this year. There can be some worries. There can be a sense of, with the ruler kind of in the second house, that Mars in Capricorn, we may be working really hard to secure a sense of security for ourselves and to make something that we're dreaming of happen and come true. But we might not. It just feels like there's going to require a lot of faith this year, a lot of sort of leaping into the fog, as they say, trusting that your guides are watching out for you and they have your back. Okay, I'm going to stop here. If you have questions for me, please let me know. And hopefully this was helpful. So I went a little bit over, but good luck with everything. And I'm having fun following you. So keep posting pictures. Okay, take care. Bye, Laura.